In order to protect the Earth from the invasion of alien robots, a young man and his car enlist the help of the Autobots and must prevent the entire planet from being destroyed. Today we will recap the story of the 2009 movie Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. 17,000 years before Christ, the first alien ship landed on Earth and waged war against humanity. Currently, for the past 2 years, an advanced team of Autobots has taken refuge on the planet and formed an alliance with the humans. A group of soldiers called Nest has been helping the Transformers hunt down their enemies, the Decepticons, who are hiding out in various countries around the world. The group constantly risks their lives to eliminate this threat that has endangered life on Earth for thousands of years. Luckily, Nest is not alone in this mission, as the Autobots are also after these evil robots that cause destruction wherever they go. When one of these monsters invades Shanghai, Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots, must intervene and quickly, after a few shots, is able to neutralize the threat. Sam Witwicky is a young American who has just graduated from high school and is about to go to college. Judy, his mother, is very sad about the farewell, for the young man will have to move to France. His father, Ron, is also unhappy about Sam's departure, but avoids showing his feelings. The young man worries that he will be away from his parents for the first time in his life, but nothing saddens him more than having to separate from his girlfriend. While talking to the girl by phone, he finds a fragment of an alien cube that has been trapped in his jacket. After touching it, Sam begins to see numerous symbols and quickly drops the object. Due to the high temperature of the fragment, the floor ends up being melted and a fire is caused. Suddenly, several small Decepticons appear and attack the young man. When the little monsters start shooting, Sam has to run away, and while hiding in the garden with his father, he cries out for help from Bumblebee. The Autobot then comes out of the garage, shoots the little guys and manages to eliminate them, but ends up causing even more destruction. Before the police show up, Sam orders his friend to hide while he goes to retrieve the shard so the cops won't find it. When Michaela shows up, the young man hands her the small vial and goes to the garage to try to explain to Bumblebee that he won't be able to take him to college. After dealing with all the drama done by the robot, Sam is surprised by his girlfriend, who says goodbye to the young man and already starts making plans to visit him. When Sam leaves, Michaela takes her motorcycle and returns to the workshop, but is pursued by a small Decepticon, who goes after her in order to retrieve the shard. Meanwhile, in space, Soundwave uses a US Army satellite to collect information regarding the object's location. Optimus Prime is at the Nest military base and informs the general that his people's alliance with the humans has prevented 6 Decepticon invasions in that year alone, each on a different continent. So the robot comes to the conclusion that its enemies are all over the planet looking for something. During the last confrontation, one of those creatures mentioned the return of Fallen, and this is the only clue that the Autobots have regarding their opponent's plan. At this moment, Mr. Galloway speaks up and informs us that he has been sent by the president to take action regarding the Autobots, because they have caused great damage in Shanghai. During his speech, the man reveals the location of the prison of Megatron, the leader of the Decepticons, and the place where the remaining piece of the alien cube is being kept, which they call the Allspark. After obtaining this information, Starscream informs the Decepticons that the fragment has been located and prepares for a new invasion. After pondering everything that has happened in the past 2 years, Mr. Galloway begins to believe that the only thing attracting the Decepticons to Earth are the Autobots and asks Optimus Prime to leave the planet along with his allies. However, before leaving, the robot asks the human to talk to the president and ask him to consider the possibility that he is wrong, because if the Autobots leave, the humans will be helpless to deal with the next attacks. Upon arriving on campus, Sam rushes to get his things to his dorm and meets Leo, his new roommate. After a few minutes of conversation, Leo presents his project to the young man. Together with his 2 collaborators, the young man feeds a website with evidence that supports his conspiracy theories. As he plans to grow his business in the coming years, he invites Sam to join his team, but the young man immediately declines the invitation. Meanwhile, a Decepticon spaceship sends a new invader to Earth. The robot Tiger rushes to the Navy base where the Allspark fragment is hidden and releases thousands of mini-robots into the facility. After merging, these small creatures become a single monster whose mission is to retrieve the fragment. By the time the military realizes the invasion, it is too late, as the shard has already been stolen. However, during the escape, the monster is detected and the soldiers begin a battle to try to prevent it from escaping. That night, Sam goes to his first college party, and while his classmates are having a good time, the young man unconsciously starts drawing various symbols on a table. At that moment, Alice approaches him and asks him to dance. The young man refuses the invitation and says he has a girlfriend, but Alice insists on trying to win him over. However, Sam manages to get rid of her when one of the party guests reveals that there is a yellow Camaro parked on the lawn outside the house. Immediately, Sam runs to check if it is Bumblebee who is there, and his suspicions are soon confirmed. However, as he is leaving, Alice gets into the car and the young man ends up giving her a ride. When Bumblebee realizes that the girl is interested in Sam, he finds a way to throw her out and attacks Alice until she decides to get out of the vehicle. Then the duo continues on their way until Sam meets up with Optimus Prime and discovers that a big problem is about to happen. The robot reveals that the last fragment of the Allspark has been stolen by the Decepticons and asks for Sam's help to prevent Earth from suffering the same fate as Cybertron, his planet. However, the young man states that he wants to have a normal college life, like any other young man, and refuses to get involved in this battle. After stealing the last piece of the cube, the Decepticons go after their leader and travel to the North Atlantic to rescue him. The creatures then dive into the ocean to find Megatron's body and use the energy of the fragment to resurrect him. It does not take long before the soldiers responsible for guarding the place notice the invasion, but they are not able to stop the robots from escaping. Once he manages to escape, Megatron travels into space and attacks Starscream for abandoning him on Earth for all this time. He then reveals to Fallen, his master, that the Allspark was destroyed and discovers that that cube was just a container. What really matters is the information contained in it, which is now in the possession of a young human, who holds the key to saving the Decepticons. After the weekend, Sam has his first day of school and is in class when he loses control of himself and begins rapidly flipping through the pages of a book. Suddenly, he interrupts his physics class and goes to the blackboard to present a new theory to the class. Furious with the interruption, the teacher throws him out of the room. A few days have passed since Michaela said goodbye to her boyfriend and is surprised to receive a call from him in the middle of the day. Sam is terrified of the mental breakdown he just suffered during class and claims that he has been seeing symbols in his mind since he touched the cube fragment. Therefore, he directs the young woman not to touch that object, and Michaela states that it is kept in the safe in her father's workshop. Upon overhearing the conversation, Wheelie tries to open the safe to steal the artifact, but is caught by the girl, who uses pliers to capture him. Michaela burns one of the creature's eyes and threatens it to get information. Upon discovering that the little monster is there to retrieve the fragment and deliver it to Fallen, the young woman decides to imprison it and informs her boyfriend that she will be taking a flight to Paris that afternoon. When he gets to his room, the young man starts drawing the symbols that come to his mind all over the walls until Alice and Leo show up to disturb him. The young woman then kicks Leo out of the room and pushes Sam onto the bed. She is about to drill him with her robot tail when she realizes that someone is opening the door. When she enters the room, Michaela sees her boyfriend kissing another girl and leaves. Sam then goes after her to try to explain himself and is attacked by Alice, who finally reveals her true identity. Upon hearing the young man's screams, Michaela and Leo return to see what is going on and are startled to see the beautiful young woman transform into a bloodthirsty robot. The trio quickly runs to the library to hide, but is eventually found by the creature, which attacks everyone who gets in its way. After recovering the box where Wheelie is trapped, Michaela steals a car and manages to escape. However, the alien clings to the vehicle and the girl manages to crush it by crashing into a pillar. The young men breathe a sigh of relief, believing they are safe, until a helicopter suddenly appears and uses a hook to transport the car to an abandoned building. Once there, Megatron captures Sam and orders Reedman to remove the information contained in his brain. The young man was about to have his skull cut in half when Optimus Prime and Bumblebee show up to rescue him. The duo then attack the Decepticons and help the humans escape. However, they are pursued by Megatron, who summons his allies into battle. Now Sam must run from numerous evil robots and hide until new allies appear to help Optimus in battle. While this is not happening, the leader of the Autobots bravely faces his opponents alone and manages to lead the battle until he is struck in the back by his greatest enemy. After the attack, Optimus is eliminated and Fallen prepares to invade Earth, because he knows that no other Autobot is able to defeat him. Just then, new robots appear and Bumblebee leads Sam away from the war zone while his companions attack the Decepticons. As they are outnumbered, the evil aliens decide to flee and Megatron prepares to receive his master. The creatures fall from the sky like meteors and countless warships are destroyed during the fall. Sam's parents are having lunch in a French restaurant when they are surprised by the arrival of the aliens and must flee, but are soon captured. As soon as he arrives on Earth, Fallen makes a transmission to all of humanity and states that his people will no longer go into hiding. The creature threatens to destroy the entire planet unless the humans hand Sam over to him. In an attempt to neutralize the threat, the Nest group teams up with the Autobots. However, before they could begin operations, Mr. Galloway shows up and informs Major Lennox that, by order of the President, His team is out of operation. The man is convinced that everything that is happening is because of the feud between the aliens and believes that by driving the Autobots off the planet, the Decepticons will leave humanity alone. Since his face has been made public to all mankind, Sam is in hiding and must think of a solution to stop the Decepticons before his world is destroyed. The young man asks Skids and Mudflap for help to unravel the symbols that are appearing in his mind, but the robots claim that they are unable to decode them. So Leo suggests that the young man go and ask for help from Simmons, a guy who, according to him, knows absolutely everything about the alien robots. Initially, the man refuses to help those youngsters, but changes his mind when Sam tells him about the symbols. The man then takes the trio to his hideout and shows them all the studies he has done on those symbols, which have appeared in different places on the planet over thousands of years. However, it takes the help of a Decepticon to decode them, so Michaela goes to get Wheelie from the trunk of the car. The creature claims that it cannot understand that language, but knows someone who can. To find it, the group needs to break into a museum and detect the aircraft, which is activated in the presence of the fragment. At this instant, Michaela realizes that the creature is a Decepticon and everyone runs for cover, since their lives are now in danger. However, to their surprise, the old robot does not intend to hurt them, because he does not even remember where he is. The creature reveals that, despite being a Decepticon, it chose hundreds of years ago to support the Autobots, because it knows that if it weren't for them, its people would have destroyed the entire universe by now. So Sam draws the symbols on the ground and enlists Jetfire's help to decode them. When he sees them, the robot remembers the mission he received before arriving on Earth and says that he needs to find a key. The monster then uses his teleportation ability to take the group to Egypt. Somewhere in that desert, his ancestors built a great machine to harvest energon, which is the vital source of energy for the Transformers. However, to do this, it is necessary to destroy the planet, and his ancestors made an agreement never to use this machine in places where life existed. However, Fallen ignored this rule and intended to eliminate humans. Luckily, the only way to activate this machine is through a legendary key called the Leadership Matrix. A great battle was fought over possession of the Matrix, but Fallen was stronger than his brothers. So they had no choice but to steal the key and hide it from him. Those Transformers gave their lives to hide Hugh in a tomb made from their own bodies, which has never been found. Somewhere in that desert is the world-destroying machine, and only Fallen knows where it is. If he finds the tomb where the key has been hidden, the entire planet will be destroyed. Only a Prime is capable of defeating the One, and Optimus, the last of that category, has recently been eliminated. However, Sam has the idea of using the energy of the Matrix to reactivate the Autobot and bring it back to life. To do this, he needs to find the key before Fallen finds it, so he follows the coordinates given by Jetfire to reach the place where it has been hidden. On the way to the desert, the group ends up being detected and pursued by the police, who intend to capture Sam and use him as a bargaining chip with the Decepticons. After losing them, Simmons uses a payphone to contact Major Lennox and ask for reinforcements. After receiving the coordinates, the Nest Squadron begins to plan their trip, and they must be careful not to arouse suspicion. While crossing the border into Jordan, Sam is caught on security cameras and the Decepticons are able to detect his location. It is already getting dark when the group decides to stop for a rest and plans to begin the search for the Matrix the next morning. During a conversation with his girlfriend, Sam remembers the information he got from reading the astronomy book during Professor Colin's class and uses the stars to guide the path they need to follow. Meanwhile, the Nest group has just arrived in Egypt and the pilot announces that all passengers must leave the plane due to an engine failure. Immediately, Galloway realizes that he has been tricked and that this was Major Lennox's plan all along. After several hours of traveling, Sam and his friends finally arrive at the ancient ruins. The group doesn't know where to look and everyone ends up getting stressed out by the situation. During a game to relieve tension, Skids and Mudflap start fighting and accidentally end up making a hole in one of the walls. Observing the structure behind the painting, Sam realizes that this is the place they are looking for and enlists Bumblebee's help to open a passage. Immediately, the humans enter the tomb and find the Matrix, but when Sam holds the key, it turns to dust and disappears before their eyes. In a desperate measure, the young man begins to collect the remains of the Matrix and puts the grains into a bag. Just then, the Air Force arrives in Egypt with Optimus Prime and waits for Sam to arrive, hoping that the young man will know how to bring him back. The group is already returning to the meeting point when they are attacked by Decepticons, so they decide to split up to distract the enemies while Sam and Michaela take the remains of the Matrix to Optimus. While the couple follows the flares to find the soldiers, Leo and Simmons use the Transformers as bait and lure the aliens the opposite way. After flying over the site, Starscream realizes that the soldiers have brought Optimus' body and relays this information to his leader. Immediately, Megatron realizes that Sam has managed to get hold of the key and intends to use it to resurrect the leader of the Autobots. As such, he orders the Decepticons to attack the Nest members in an attempt to prevent the young man from getting close to his robot ally. Meanwhile, Leo and Simmons realize that instead of distracting the enemy aliens, they were the ones who fell into an ambush. After hiding in an old building, Sam plans to wait for the enemies to move away before running to where Optimus is. However, suddenly, a robot insect invades the facility and the young man manages to deactivate it. In that instant, its location is revealed and the couple begins to suffer brutal attacks. Luckily, they manage to escape, but it is still 500 meters away to reach the meeting point and the soldiers do not know where they are. A few miles away, Leo and Simmons must survive the Devastator's attack, which uses its giant mouth to suck in absolutely everything around it. Both humans and Transformers need to hold on to somewhere fixed to the ground to avoid being carried away. However, Mudflap slips and ends up being sucked into the enemy's throat. At this point, the attack is interrupted as the robot begins to attack the monster, and quickly his brother goes to help him defeat the creature. Sam and Michaela are about to catch up with the soldiers when the young man realizes that his parents have been caught by the enemies. In an attempt to save them, the young man decides to negotiate the Matrix and distracts the enemy so that Bumblebee can attack him. During the duel, the robot Tiger appears and decides to intervene in the battle, but is easily destroyed by the Autobot. Worried about his parents, Sam asks Bumblebee to get them out of the danger zone and into a safe place. Seeing the giant robot destroying one of the pyramids, Simmons soon realizes that the machine is just below and knows that he must stop it, or the planet will be consumed. The man then contacts the army for reinforcements and states that the only hope of defeating the Devastator is by means of the electric cannon. After receiving the exact coordinates, the Navy fires and the monster is hit hard. Meanwhile, Michaela and Sam continue running through the war zone and trying to survive the explosions to catch up to Optimus Prime. Seeing the couple approaching, Lennox and his men rush to their rescue. The group is surrounded when Jetfire appears to help in the battle, but cannot hold out for long and is defeated. The Decepticons are winning the war when the fighter planes approach and blow up all the enemies. With the impact of the explosions, Sam is thrown far away and ends up fainting before he reaches Optimus Prime. Lennox tries to revive him, but the young man has no heartbeat. While the agents try to resuscitate Sam, he has a vision with the aliens who sacrificed themselves to save the Earth. The creatures claim that the Matrix cannot just be found, it must be earned. By risking his life to save Optimus Prime, Sam has proven himself worthy to wield the key, and so the young man wakes up to fulfill his destiny. When Optimus gets up, Fallen appears and steals the Matrix. He quickly flies to the machine that was hidden beneath the pyramid and uses the key to activate it, dooming all life on Earth. Seeing the planet at risk, Jetfire decides to sacrifice himself and offers his parts so that Optimus can get the power he needs to defeat Fallen. Immediately, the leader of the Autobots flies toward his enemy and, after capturing him, manages to destroy the machine. Now Optimus must fulfill his destiny and destroy Fallen, but Megatron interferes in the fight to defend his master. After defeating his greatest adversary, the robot attacks Fallen again and, thanks to the powers granted by Jetfire, manages to eliminate him once and for all. Unable to continue fighting, Megatron and the Decepticons decide to flee, and once again, humanity is saved by the Autobots. After the Cybertronians arrived on Earth in 2007 and the war between Autobots and Decepticons reached its climax in the Battle of Chicago in 2011, the government realizes all the risk these machines bring to humans and begins to hunt them down until they exterminate them all. For this, the United States leaves the agent Attinger, leader of the CIA, responsible for conducting all searches and eliminate these ultra-technological creatures. In rural Texas, a failed inventor named Cade Yeager goes on a hunt to find things that are broken and fix them so he can resell them. In the midst of his search, he finds an old truck, and when he opens the door to assess whether it can be repaired, hundreds of giant capsules fall from inside the car. Finding this all rather strange, but believing he can fix it and still make a profit, Cade decides to buy the vehicle and take it home. At home, the engineer begins to perform maintenance on the truck, and when he connects a battery to it, he notices that it turns on completely and begins to send a message to gather all the Autobots. That is, that vehicle is actually a Cybertronian. Startled by the news of what the Transformers did in the Battle of Chicago, Tessa and Lucas, Cade's daughter and employee respectively, think it is better to call the government to deliver the location of the alien robot and earn the reward announced on television. But seeing the Autobot as an opportunity to improve himself as an inventor and also earn money by discovering new technologies, the engineer refuses to do so and decides to continue his studies. While tinkering with the components of the mutant truck, Cade finds a missile and accidentally activates the projectile, which starts flying aimlessly and hits his own house. Thinking it was an attempted attack, the Cybertronian finally transforms and reveals himself to be Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots. Badly damaged and not knowing exactly what is going on, Optimus threatens to kill them, believing that the missile shot was on purpose and against him, but Cade manages to calm him down by fixing it and taking him to the rest of the Autobots. To perform the repairs, the engineer sends Lucas into town to buy some tools, but he takes advantage of the fact that he is alone and calls the government to hand over Optimus' location to the CIA. Knowing where to find his target, Attinger sends all his men to capture him, including Lockdown, a Cybertronian who was sent by the creators to capture the Primes, and to do so, agreed to ally himself momentarily with the humans. Upon arriving at the residence with dozens of cars and helicopters, the agents ask Cade about Optimus' location, but realizing that he will not cooperate, they begin to search the property where they find the alien missile still active. With this clear sign that Optimus was really there, the agents surrender the trio and threaten to take Tessa's life if Cade doesn't give up the robot's location, but at that moment, the leader of the Autobots comes out of hiding and starts shooting at the soldiers, giving them the opening they needed to escape. They then start running away, but are rescued by Shane, Tessa's boyfriend. After getting into the boys' car, the group tries to lose the soldiers following them while Lockdown and the helicopters go after Optimus, but they manage to escape the soldiers after a few rather intense minutes of escape. Believing they are free, they get out of Shane's car and start running towards the leader of the Autobots, but are surprised and Lucas is hit by an alien grenade thrown by Lockdown, turning his body into a steel statue. Even with the casualty, they finally manage to escape their pursuers and Optimus sends a radio message summoning all the remaining Autobots. Together they try to understand why they are being hunted and discover that the government has made some sort of deal with an aerospace research company called KSI, which is run by multi-billionaire Joshua. The deal between them is that Attinger will eliminate the Cybertronians and this corporation will collect the remains to develop their own transformers. Already aware of the government's plans, Cade manages to forge some cards and together with Shane and Bumblebee, he breaks into KSI's facilities disguised as a scientist, but he doesn't have time to see much because the security guards quickly notice that the same card was scanned twice at 2 different gates and are able to locate him easily, pursuing and capturing him without difficulty. Knowing that Cade has been caught and is in mortal danger at Attinger's hands, the Autobots immediately head to the KSI building and storm the place to rescue the inventor. Bumblebee then assumes his Cybertronian form and climbs into the office where Cade was being held, managing to capture him without too much difficulty. With their primary mission completed, the Transformers go to the lab and begin destroying Joshua's research, who becomes enraged and orders the Autobots to stop destroying his property, leaving Optimus furious that he considers the remains of his friends as something that belongs to humans, but even with all his anger, the leader of the Autobots decides to just walk away and leave Joshua alive. As revenge for the attack, Attinger convinces the billionaire to activate the Galvatron, a Cybertronian he developed based on the genome of the Megatron, the leader of the Decepticons. In the middle of the road, Galvatron intercepts the Autobots and Joshua orders him to transform himself to fight Optimus, but something goes wrong and the robot begins to take the lives of innocent humans as well as perform several missile shots without being ordered to do so. Realizing that there is something wrong with the programming, Joshua asks them to recall Galvatron to prevent more human lives from being lost, but Attinger manages to convince him to continue in his fight against Optimus. Trying to defend himself, Optimus transforms and begins to fight against his enemy, managing to get the better of him and punch through Galvatron's energy core, but Lockdown appears with his gigantic ship and hits a missile right in the back of the Autobot leader. With no way to defend himself, Optimus receives several more shots and as a result is unable to fight and is captured without being able to resist. To make matters worse, Tessa, who was in the middle of the crossfire, is also caught and taken to the alien ship. With Optimus captured, Attinger sends his men to Lockdown to have him hold up his end of the bargain and deliver a seed from the planet Cybertron. When planted, this object gives rise to a true metal biome that Joshua intends to use in the creation of his Transformers. Taking advantage of the fact that they are distracted by their negotiation, Cade, Shane and the remaining Autobots invade the spaceship to rescue Optimus and Tessa. While searching for his captured friends, an Autobot named Crosshair messes up and activates the ship's anchors, alerting Lockdown, who finds out about the presence of the invaders and sends his robotic dogs to hunt them down. After a few minutes of searching, Cade and Shane find some weapons around the place and are soon cornered by some of the Lockdown soldiers, but they manage to eliminate their pursuers with ease after a brief exchange of gunfire. After getting rid of the robots, they finally find Tessa, who has managed to free herself from an alien that grabbed her with its tongue. With their objectives completed and having no other means of escape, the trio of humans decide to leave through the anchors that Crosshair has activated, but when they are almost halfway through, the satanic dogs find them and start running towards them to devour them, but are shot down by Cade in the middle of the way. Realizing that they are easy targets when they are on the anchors, the steel beasts begin to gnaw on the cables, causing the pieces to come loose and finally bringing down the trio. But Bumblebee suddenly appears and saves them in midair, preventing them from crashing to the ground. At this point, Crosshair appears with a small spaceship he stole from Lockdown and gives the rest of the group a ride, but they are pursued by more Cybertronian soldiers. Trying to get rid of his pursuers, Bumblebee grabs a ship with his harpoon and simply throws it at one of the enemy ships, turning it into scrap metal. Soon after this, Bumblebee takes over the direction of the ship, but ends up losing control and causing a huge accident in which, luckily, everyone is unharmed. In the cell wing, the rest of the Autobots finally find Optimus and free him. With all their objectives accomplished and with Lockdown about to leave Earth, the group takes control of one of the escape ships and manage to uncouple without the Cybertronian realizing it, taking all the Primal Knights along with them. Finally free, the Autobots reunite and Optimus tells them that while he was fighting Galvatron, he could sense Megatron's presence coming from his enemy. It turns out that after the Chicago battle where he was defeated, the leader of the Decepticons manipulated KSI into building a new body for him and also to get the seed, and along with it a veritable army of Cybertronians to follow him. At KSI's headquarters, not suspecting that he has been manipulated, Joshua knows that it is only a matter of time before the FBI gets a warrant and goes there to investigate. As he doesn't want to be caught, he orders his employees to collect all the research material and take it to China where they can continue their work without being bothered by the American government, and asks Attinger to take the seed there as well. As soon as he arrives in Beijing, Joshua receives a call from Cade who tells him about the Megatron's plans, and although reluctant to believe that his creation is manipulating him, he orders his employees to keep Galvatron contained and totally inactive, but even totally trapped, the Cybertronian manages to activate itself and free itself, and also to corrupt the programming of dozens of prototypes being developed by KSI, managing to get its own army. At the same time, Lockdown, who was almost at his planet, finally realizes that Optimus has escaped and that he has taken with him a part of his ship where all his prisoners were. Since he could not take the empty ship back to the creators, the hunter immediately turns around and heads back to Earth as quickly as possible to recapture them. In the United States, the Autobots deduce that all the manipulation Megatron has done is to activate the seed in Beijing and exterminate the human race, and trying to stop him, they use the stolen Lockdown ship to cross the Pacific and go to China to defeat the leader of the Decepticons once and for all. Finally convinced that he has been manipulated by Megatron, Joshua takes the seed from Attinger but refuses to fulfill his part of the bargain and activate the object, leaving the CIA leader completely furious. Knowing that Attinger will not let him off the hook and will try to kill him, Joshua begins to run away along with one of his employees while being pursued by CIA agents, but in the middle of the escape they end up having an accident and trying to save the billionaire. The woman asks him to get into the elevator and go to the top floor while she requests air rescue, but to Joshua's misfortune, before the doors close the CIA agents finally find him. Since he has no experience in combat, he has no other option but to surrender, but his employee soon comes up behind the duo and hits a supreme broom in the face of one of them, and causing him to pass out soon after. After his employee gets rid of her pursuers, Joshua goes to the terrace expecting his rescue helicopter, however, who appears is actually Cade and the Autobots who ask for the seed to take her away. At the same time, Galvatron and his new Decepticons also arrive in town to pick up the object, and as they realize Optimus' companions are on the ship about to pick it up, one of the hooded Transformers starts firing at them, knocking the Autobots Bumblebee and Hound into the streets, as well as the trio of humans on the rooftop. As if this wasn't bad enough, the blast damaged the spaceship, causing it to lose control and crash with a comet with the rest of the Autobots on board. After a not-so-smooth landing in the middle of the Chinese jungle, Optimus goes to the saddle of the ship and reactivates the legendary, prehistoric Prime Riders to join the fight against Megatron, but they refuse to help and challenge the leader of the Autobots. Despite being much smaller than his challengers, Optimus is much more agile and can dominate the fight. Trying to turn the tables, the barbarian Cybertronian takes the form of a Tyrannosaurus Rex and runs towards the leader of the Autobots, but Optimus lands a punch so hard in the prehistoric lizard's face that it dislocates the beast's jaw, thus finally winning the fight and subduing the other primes. On the terrace, Cade and the other humans start running, but when they get into the elevator to go down to Bumblebee and Hound, they are cornered by one of Attinger's men who starts shooting at them. Trying to save his family, Cade decides to stay to distract him while the others flee with the seed. Knowing that he has no chance unarmed, the engineer starts running trying to dodge the shots until the agent's ammunition runs out, which doesn't take long to happen. With the two unarmed, an intense brawl begins, but Cade quickly realizes that he is still at a disadvantage because he is fighting a CIA-trained officer and, out of options, decides to run away. But there is a small problem: they are on a terrace and have nowhere to run, so he is soon cornered. With nowhere to run, Cade starts jumping on the roof tiles of the house, doing a real parkour, but it doesn't take long before he is hanging on and almost falls off the building. Wanting to eliminate his target, the agent follows him through the roof, and when he realizes that he is about to fall, he starts kicking the air conditioning of one of the houses that falls on top of Cade, causing him to plummet a few floors. After causing all this destruction, the officer finally manages to catch up to him and throws himself on top of him, causing them both to go through the window and fall inside one of the houses. Determined to end the fight once and for all, the agent picks up his combat Tramontina and goes for his target, but the engineer manages to be faster and throws an football ball at the officer's head, taking his balance and knocking him down from a height of at least 30 meters. After this intense fight, Cade goes to the streets to help Hound and Bumblebee in the fight against the new Decepticons, but with the support of a simple human they are still at a huge numerical disadvantage, and to make matters worse they are almost out of ammunition. But this totally changes when Optimus finally arrives on the battlefield riding his metal T-Rex with the rest of the Autobots, besides the other Prime Riders that also transform into steel dinosaurs. With the reinforcements, Galvatron and his Decepticons begin to take the worst, and since the Autobots no longer need the help of humans, Cade gets in a car to take the seed away along with the others, but Lockdown finally arrives on the battlefield and in a totally overpowered way uses some magnets attached to his ship to attract everything that is metal, as if it were a steel Chibaku Tensei. The goal of Lockdown is to make the Autobots float and then release them from a considerable height to damage their components, but he ends up doing the same to the people in his cars, taking thousands of innocent lives. After some time flying over the city, Lockdown finally catches up with the Autobots and begins to pull them into the sky along with the Prime Riders, but Optimus manages to make a few shots that hit the magnets hard, destroying them completely. After a less than pleasant landing, the leader of the Autobots challenges Lockdown to a battle and asks the rest of the group to take the humans and the seed away, without his Chibaku Tensei to fall back on. The robot finally comes down to Earth and engages in hand-to-hand combat with Optimus. Not far away, Cade believes that his robotic friend may need help and decides to leave Joshua, Tessa and Shane with the seed and return to help the leader of the Autobots. Despite being one of the Prime, Optimus receives several critical hits and is at a total disadvantage in the fight. Realizing this, Cade hides among the debris and waits for an opening so he can shoot Lockdown, but while the engineer waits for his chance, Attinger sneaks up from behind and starts shooting at him, almost eliminating him. Upon hearing the sounds of gunfire, Optimus realizes that Cade is about to be eliminated and fires a mortar shot at the CIA director, taking his life instantly. Taking advantage of the distraction, Lockdown comes up behind Optimus and hits him with a punch that sends him flying far away, and with him down, uses the Sword of the Primes to go through the energy core of the Autobot leader, causing critical damage to his circuitry. Knowing that her father could lose his life in the fight, Tessa convinces Shane and Bumblebee to turn around and go help them in the great final battle. Realizing that Optimus can no longer fight with the sword through his chest, Cade finally springs into action and begins firing Lockdown shots. At this point, Bumblebee finally arrives to help and begins to strike him while Cade fires several shots at him. Trying to help, Tessa puts the winch of a truck on the sword that is on Optimus' chest and Shane uses the vehicle to pull the blade out of the Prime Master's body. At this point, Lockdown starts to get the upper hand and manages to get Bumblebee out of the action. Not realizing that his target is free, he goes to Cade to eliminate him, but at that very moment Optimus jumps from behind him and shoves his sword into the villain's back, breaking his body in half. But even with the defeat of the Herald of the Creators, the fight is not over. At this point the Decepticons begin to advance further and further, and to end this war once and for all, Optimus takes the humans in his arms, activates the Lockdown grenade and begins to fly away, defeating the entire Galvatron army at once. Even with the Battle of Beijing finally over, Optimus knows that there is still a price on his head and that soon other heralds will be sent to capture him, putting the Earth in danger once again. With that, he decides his Autobots will take care of the humans while he takes the seed and leaves the planet, heading towards the Creators. After the events of the Battle of Beijing, Optimus Prime left the Autobots protecting the Earth and set off toward his Creators. However, soon after he left the planet, the Transformers were once again considered enemies and hunted by humans. At war with both the Autobots and the Decepticons, the Earthlings have created a paramilitary organization known as TRF to track down and eliminate all Transformers. But even so, more and more aliens arrive on our planet, which has become a veritable war zone. In a completely destroyed stadium, 4 kids break into the rubble and start looking for deactivated Transformers to get something as a souvenir. In the midst of the wreckage, the group finds a destroyed spaceship and decides to approach it, finding an alien still alive inside. In their fright, they alert a pair of TRF sentries who surrender the group of junior invaders, telling them that they are in an area of alien contamination and must identify themselves. However, before they can even move, a girl named Isabella appears in the middle of the rubble and throws a bottle up in the air, causing the robots to start shooting and hit each other. In the midst of the confusion, the girl enlists the help of her sidekick Squeaks, a ramshackle gambit assembled from the remains of a blue wasp. After Isabella's command, the robot takes some steel cables and wraps them around the legs of the remaining sentry, causing him to topple over as he tries to walk, but Squeaks ends up getting hit and loses one of his parts in the process. At this point, the TRF notices the movement and sends some drones to investigate, locating the miners hiding under a rusty Autobot. Even with their presence, the military decides to go ahead with the mission and sends a fighter to shoot down the alien, firing a missile that hits the target. Seeing that her companion has been hit, Isabella kneels down and tries to encourage him to get up, but Cade Yeager, protagonist of Transformers 4, arrives saying that it is already over and that they must flee before the TRF reinforcements arrive. While they are trying to start the car, Bumblebee jumps on top of the last sentry and finishes him off quite easily, giving them the break they needed to get out of there. With everything calmed down, Cade guides the kids to the nearest exit and goes to the Transformer in the spaceship to see if he can repair it. However, for some reason the alien tries to hand over an ancient talisman, saying that the artifact will protect Yeager. Even knowing that the Transformer doesn't have much time left, the inventor refuses the object and sets off toward the exit, where he is intercepted by TRF personnel. Completely surrounded, Cade surrenders and Bumblebee steps forward to protect his partner, receiving so many shots that his entire body disassembles. But still, B stays alive and manages to completely rebuild his body, as well as capture the squad leader. At that moment Hound also arrives on the battlefield, leaving the TRF completely outnumbered and forcing Major Lennox to order his men to retreat, but not without first implanting a tracker in the Bumblebee's airfoil. In the midst of the confusion, the medallion walks over to Cade and gets into the inventor's car without anyone noticing, along with Isabella and Squeaks, who go undercover to the Autobots' hideout. In London, Sir Edmund Burton realizes that the talisman has been activated and decides to send his butler Cogman to track down the bearer, while he himself begins to track down Vivian, a young teacher who works in a museum. At the army base of operations, Major Lennox tells about the Transformer that was on the ship and reveals that he is one of the Guardian Knights, as well as reporting that another Decepticon named Barricade has also been spotted nearby. At the same time, at Megatron's hideout, Barricade tells him that he has managed to find the Knight, but that he has given the talisman to Cade, which drives the leader of the Decepticons completely insane. However, the Transformer cop talks about the TRF and reveals that they know the location of the Autobots. Still not knowing about the infiltrators in his car, Cade returns to the junkyard where he is visited by Day Trader, a demented Transformer who is always trying to sell trinkets to the inventor. When he arrives at the place, the Cybertronic merchant starts pushing a bunch of old stuff to Cade, as well as a new larynx for Bumblebee to be able to talk, but when he sees the medallion, Day Trader completely forgets about the sale and says that the appearance of this artifact is the first sign of the apocalypse. Thinking it is bullshit, Yeager throws the cyberpunk peddler out and tries to go back to his business, but Isabella comes out of her hiding place and begs him to stay, saying that she can be useful because she knows how to repair robots. Since she doesn't want to take care of someone else, Cade says it's dangerous and tells her to go home, but since she doesn't have a home, the girl insists on staying with the inventor and the Autobots, taking advantage of Yeager's tools to weld the arm of a Decepticon in Squeaks. After having the implant, Isabella goes to Cade's workshop and helps him implant the new larynx into Bumblebee, but Day Trader sold a counterfeit part and now the big yellow guy has the voice of a Russian woman, which makes the Camaro completely angry. In the Pentagon, Major Lennox learns that Megatron has captured 2 CIA agents and has contacted the TRF to free some imprisoned Decepticons. Among them, Mohawk, Dreadbot, Nitro, Zeus and Onslaught. Along with the aliens, the TRF mobilizes all its men toward Cade's junkyard, but all this movement ends up alerting the local sheriff, who warns Cade about the visit. In a hurry, the inventor grabs his belongings and starts to run away while Hound stays behind trying to buy time, but he doesn't stand a chance against the Megatron and is easily defeated. In an abandoned city nearby, Cade and the Autobots prepare for combat, while Grimlock and the other Dinobots deal with the military. When Yeager finishes setting his traps, the Decepticons arrive in town and start searching for the Autobots, but find Squeaks and start interrogating him, forcing Isabella to come out of hiding to try to defend him. As the girl approaches the robots, the medallion sticks to Cade's arm, who activates the traps prematurely to save her. Taking advantage of the distraction, the humans start running while being chased by the Megatron. However, Grimlock and the Autobots appear to defend them and the Decepticons are forced to retreat. Even so, the TRF does not give up trying to capture them and sends dozens of drones that begin to chase them, forcing the humans to hide in an abandoned church to try to escape. After an intense chase in the building, Cade runs to the elevator of another building, where he finds Cogman saying that his mission is to lead the inventor to his master, but Yeager thinks he works for TRF and tries to fight, but is completely humiliated by the alien. Suddenly, the elevator door opens and a drone swoops down on Cade, shattering the glass and knocking him off the building, causing the inventor to have to hold on to the device to avoid crashing. In midair, other aircraft appear and start shooting at Yeager, but the talisman begins to move over his body, protecting him from the projectiles. As soon as Cade lands, Cogman appears and explains that the medallion has chosen him, and that this is why he has been sent to America to take him to his master. Knowing that everyone around him will be in danger, Yeager agrees to leave for London with the butler and Bumblebee, leaving Isabella with the rest of the Autobots. In space, Optimus finally arrives on Cybertron, which is now totally destroyed. As soon as he lands, he hears a female voice and begins to follow it until he meets Quintessa, an alien who is said to be the prime of life and also its creator. Thinking that she is to blame for the destruction of Cybertron, Optimus takes his sword and tries to attack her, but is easily stopped by Quintessa, who uses her powers to transform the leader of the Autobots into Nemesis Prime, a transformer who will obey her every command. With Optimus under her control, the Prime of Life tells him there is a way to rebuild Cybertron and starts telling him about Merlin's staff. Many ages ago, Quintessa possessed a staff with the power of creation, but the object was stolen by his 12 guardian knights and taken to Earth, where it fell into the hands of the wizard Merlin. Now, Quintessa plans to send Optimus to retrieve the staff and use its powers to drain the Earth's energy, thus rebuilding Cybertron at the cost of our planet. Back in the London Museum, Sir Edmund steals Vivian's car and puts an Autobot named Hot Rod to replace it, leaving the alien responsible for capturing the girl and taking her to his palace. At the same time, Cade arrives in England and finally meets Burton, who introduces himself to the two and takes them to the Round Table, where he reveals that Vivian is the last descendant of Merlin still alive. According to him, the staff was given to the wizard by the Knights of Quintessa, who fused his DNA with the staff, allowing only someone of the same bloodline to activate its powers. To ensure that the object does not fall into the wrong hands, Vivian's family buried the weapon along with Merlin's body in a top-secret location, passed down from generation to generation. But to their misfortune, the girl's father left while she was still small and could not reveal the exact location, so they will have to search for clues and find Merlin's body on their own. Finally, Burton reveals that Quintessa is taking Cybertron on a collision course with Earth and tells the prophecy about a warrior of Camelot who would be chosen by the Medallion to protect Earth, and Cade is that knight. Just then, TRF agents approach and begin to surround the palace, forcing Hot Rod to use an overpowered weapon capable of slowing down time, making it much easier for the humans to escape. After evading his pursuers, Yeager accompanies Vivian to her father's old office where they begin to search for clues he may have left behind, finding the clue that leads to the Naval Museum in a children's book. At this point, the TRF finally manages to locate them, and they break into Vivian's house, starting a desperate race to the coast. While B tries to throw the military off guard, Cade calls Burton and tells him what they found out, setting up a meeting at the museum, but as if the TRF wasn't enough trouble, Barricade also shows up and starts chasing the couple, forcing B to change shape while driving to fill the Decepticon with bullets, leaving the humans terrified. Soon after this, they finally arrive at the Naval Museum and Sir Edmund kicks everyone out of the submarine that he says has been prepared by Vivian's father and will automatically go to the location of the staff. With them about to leave, Burton says he has something else to do and leaves the ship and goes straight to the Prime Minister's residence. As soon as he arrives at the place, Sir Edmund says he needs an urgent meeting with the head of state, but since the guards ignore his request, he decides to use the old entrance, ending up straight in the presidential suite. As soon as he meets with the Prime Minister, Burton introduces himself and says that he needs all of the United Kingdom's military to go to Stonehenge, because according to him, that is where Quintessa and Megatron will begin their attack. At the same time, a second moon appears in the heavens and everyone on the planet finally discovers that something horrible is going to happen, forcing the leaders of several countries to get together to decide what to do. In the junkyard, the Autobots see Cybertron in space and immediately realize the war that is on its way, deciding to disobey Cade's orders and go straight to England to help him. Once at the bottom of the ocean, Cogman realizes that a TRF nuclear submarine is behind them and puts the engines on full power, causing the craft to rotate 180 degrees and slam into the TRF vehicle, knocking it out of circulation. Thinking it is over, they approach a gigantic ship at the bottom of the ocean, which according to Cogman, has been underwater since the Dark Ages waiting for the arrival of the last knight. As soon as they enter the spaceship, the couple begins to explore the place until they find a structure full of Celtic scriptures on the floor, which when touched by Vivian, reveal the tomb where Merlin's body lies. With the tomb right in front of them, they decide to remove the lid of the coffin and find only an old wooden staff, which makes Cade suspect that something is missing. But while he looks around for clues, the knights in the spaceship come back to life to eliminate anyone who wants to steal the staff. At that moment, the TRF military arrives on the scene and starts shooting at the alien, managing to knock it into the abyss with the help of some explosives, but in the midst of the confusion, Vivian ends up touching the staff, which changes shape instantly, alerting Quintessa and causing the spaceship to start moving towards the surface. Upon seeing the weapon in the woman's hands, Major Lennox and his men order her to drop the staff, but the remaining knights also regain consciousness and begin to fight to protect the object. Suddenly, Optimus appears extremely overpowered and manages to defeat both Transformers with extreme ease, saying that he also came for the staff. As soon as he sees the leader of the Autobots, Cade starts trying to communicate, but is completely ignored by the Prime, who threatens to eliminate Vivian if she does not deliver the artifact. Realizing that something is wrong, Yeager asks the woman to hand over the object and just watches as Nemesis runs away with the staff. Knowing that Optimus would never do this, Major Lennox decides to join forces with Cade and orders his men to communicate with the army to report what has happened. Outside, the former leader of the Autobots tries to escape while Bumblebee begins to chase him, starting an insane fight. Once on the surface, the two Autobots grab their weapons and begin to battle, but Optimus is clearly more powerful and manages to easily rip B's doors off. Even so, the Camaro does not give up and manages to take down his former leader by jumping on top of him and hitting him with his hammer. However, this is not enough to defeat Optimus, who continues to beat the crap out of his former companion. To finish the fight, Prime pulls out his hidden blade and tries to hit B in the head. B recovers his voice at the last second and says that he would give his life for Optimus. Somehow, hearing Bumblebee for the first time since the fall of Cybertron made the leader of the Autobots regain his consciousness and remember who he really is. Once he realizes what he was doing, Optimus apologizes for everything and prepares to confront Quintessa, but before they can leave the spaceship, Megatron and Nitrozeus arrive on the battlefield firing missiles at the Autobots. With Optimus virtually defenseless, the Decepticons steal the staff and fly away, while the Guardian Knights arrive to judge Prime for allying himself with Quintessa. Already imagining what the sentence will be, Cade begins to beg Optimus to react and try to escape, but as he refuses to do so, Yeager transforms the medallion into the sacred Excalibur and strikes the final blow, saving Prime's life and winning the loyalty of the Guardian Knights. Sorry for everything, the leader of the Autobots apologizes to Cade and promises never again to betray the Earth, as well as taking responsibility, along with the Guardian Knights, to invade Cybertron and defeat Quintessa once and for all. In Stonehenge, Megatron is using his staff to open a portal, when Sir Edmund, accompanied by the English army, begins a surprise attack on the Decepticons. In the middle of the battle between men and robots, Megatron spots Burton in the open and shoots him at full power, sending him flying through the air while his men flee to Cybertron. With the final confrontation about to begin, Cade and the military meet the Autobots on the battlefield, from where Optimus gives one of his famous speeches and takes it upon himself to clear the way for Vivian to retrieve the staff. In the Cybertron ignition chamber, Megatron hands the weapon over to Quintessa, who finally initiates the unification between the two planets. With the end so near, humans and Autobots make their way to the battlefield where American and British fighters distract the Cybertron aircraft. While everyone is waiting for the right moment to jump, the Guardian Knights unite in a three-headed Megazord dragon and go on the attack together with Optimus, helping the jets deal with the enemies. From inside the aircraft, Cade and the rest of the military approach the ignition chamber, but when it's time to land, one of the fighters ends up crashing into a mountain and causing a major accident, causing several planes to fall to the ground, including the one Yeager and Major Lennox are in. Even with the disastrous landing, the final battle against the Decepticons begins, but because of the Cybertronian artillery, the Autobots are trapped and can no longer advance. To solve this problem, Isabella has the idea of sending Squeaks to destroy the artillery, trusting that no one will notice his presence because he is small and ugly. However, before the two can even solve this situation, some Infernicons also merge and turn into a giant and extremely overpowered Megazord. Realizing that they will be defeated if things continue like this, Major Lennox reports the situation to the government, which soon issues new orders. Now, the Army's plan is to send fighters to destroy one of the Cybertron support structures, which will fall on the ignition chamber and interrupt the whole unification process, but since there are military Autobots right in the area that will be hit, they need to retreat as soon as possible. While Major Lennox is giving orders to his men, Squeaks finally reaches the artillery and uses the arm that Isabella welded on to fire a missile into the barrel of one of the guns, blowing the whole thing to smithereens. At the same time, Optimus and the Guardian Knights arrive on the battlefield and go all out against the Infernicons, managing to separate the Megazord and topple them all with a single blow of his sword. Still, the government sticks to its new strategy and orders the fighters to fire, while the military parachute in, but Vivian and Cade decide to stick to the original plan and run into the ignition chamber while a giant chunk of Cybertron falls on top of them. Thanks to this, the whole place starts to collapse, but unlike what the government planned, the energy from Earth continues to be transmitted to Cybertron. As the ignition chamber plummets through the air, the Autobots battle with the Decepticons, while Vivian and Cade advance toward the staff. With much effort, the woman finally manages to touch Merlin's staff and gets in Megatron's sight. But at the last second, Optimus Prime arrives from behind and rips off one of the Decepticon's arms with his sword, pushing him out of the chamber shortly thereafter. At this point, Quintessa has already transferred so much energy that the Earth has lost a good part of its gravitational force, making everyone practically weightless. In this way, Vivian is no longer able to reach the staff and remove it from the ground, but B manages to kick Cade in the girl's direction, allowing him to throw Merlin's daughter toward the staff. With only Quintessa standing, Optimus decides to take revenge and goes all out on her, being easily immobilized. However, the Autobots' intention was never to hit her, but to distract the alien while B approaches from behind. With the Prime of Life completely helpless, Bumblebee loads his gun to full power and fires, causing Quintessa's body to mysteriously disappear. Now that all the enemies have been defeated, Vivian can finally take out her staff, pausing the energy transfer and saving the world once and for all. But the chamber keeps falling, and they will soon crash to the ground. To prevent this from happening, Hot Rod uses his time-slowing weapon, thus allowing Optimus to capture the humans and use his own body to protect them from the impact. Thanks to this, Vivian and Cade manage to get out of the battle intact, saving the planet and putting an end to the war between humans and aliens once and for all. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.